5G systems, the upcoming 5G systems or sensor network. So this is cooperation in general. And one thing that I would like to mention here, normally, we often talk about source destination, right? And then in between, we try to find the performance matrices such as, error rate, throughput, jitter, BER, outage, and lot of things. Here, this is very obvious since there is it's a cooperation. So rather than only discussing about the cooperation between two nodes, we are actually going to have a look over the multi nodes. So there are actually multiple nodes, and then we will see how the idea of cooperation can be applied. So I think in real life, the idea of cooperation is really very fruitful and useful. But let's see if in case of wireless network, if it is really useful, right? So, okay. So this is one thing. Okay, first thing, am I properly audible? Can somebody please tell?
Yes, you're audible.
And I am making some markings on my screen. Is that visible
Yeah,
on
that
the
is
other
also
side?
visible.
Okay, okay, good,
Yes.
good. Thank you. So before going into the discussion, I would like to tell you one thing that so this talk is actually, I would divide into two sections. First section is technically non-technical, and other is pure technical session. So the first part is actually not directly related to this FDP, but yeah, it is in general related to mankind, to the technology, to the upcoming wireless technologies, and something else that we will see. And second part is obviously is based on the theme of this FDP that anyway we all will see. Okay. So and other thing is in this talk, I try to avoid using heavy mathematical equations, uh, derivations, maths. I try to keep it a bit interesting from my end. So we whatever technology we will discuss, I try to show you that technology or that steps in sort of animation form, so you will get a feel how actually the process is going on among multiple nodes, right? So there is no mathematics, some a bit relative or some relevant mathematics, I mean some few terms, modeling terms we will use whenever required, but not really the heavy maths. So okay, so let's start the session then. Okay, well, we always know, the good thing should start with Guru Vandana, and I think who else can be a better god than Google for, for us in the research domain. Whatever you ask, he will give you, right? So let's start our session with some Guru Vandana. Okay. Now, so this is actually what I was saying. It is a technically non-technical part. Uh, what is this? Human logic. So this everyone is aware. It's a very famous quote. See, this I am saying why, because being an being a technology expert does not mean we should always be talking about the positives and advantages of technology. See, each coin has two sides, right? Nothing comes free. If you are gaining something, you have to pay something, whether directly, indirectly, knowingly or unknowingly, right? Here we are going to see some things which, I mean, we all are aware. I'm not going to discuss in this particular first half in something special, but my request is just have a look again, a relook. I just want to remind you these things so that you again can rethink if we are handling these things properly. These are just some things, some news from media that I just copied as such, right? This is in Hindi. So the interesting thing, you might be thinking why I'm using it in Hindi. Actually, I am a member of my institute Hindi cell. So that's how whenever I get a chance to spread awareness about Hindi, I don't miss that. So that's how I kept few things in Hindi. I hope most of you understood the Hindi, right? So this is just show what the excessive use, which is this social media, which is an integral part nowadays of everyone's life, how dangerous it is. Or this was again very interesting. In fact, they gave something very scientific reason also why these post liking is actually becomes a habit. So they they tell in this way, actually this is how this works in your mind, right? So this eventually becomes addiction. And I think most of you can relate this figure with your daily life. From the very morning to the very late night, it's almost excessive uses of these smartphones. So uh, these newses are coming. This has a very severe impact on health, mental issues, physical issues. So my only point before going into the technical session, that fine, we are discussing a few good technologies, few advantages, no doubt. This is because of technology only we are able to attend this session. I am here in Ropar and you are there in Goa, and in fact different places of India. So this is definitely due to technology only. But as I said, there was a very famous quote we used to write during our 10th exam. Whenever there is an essay on science, we used to write, science is a good servant but a bad master. So please make sure and always remember that whatever you are using as a master, and not those apps or mobile phones are the master and you are slave. So right, because these has some adverse effects also. Researches are coming slowly, maybe with scientific proof also, not very broad or very in deep, but I hope by time things will come, right? Otherwise in daily life also we see the harmful effects of all these, right? So, and interestingly, I'm not the first person who is talking about all this. Uh, few years ago we had a international conference at IIT Roper, and we invited Professor Girish Kumar as an speaker. And he in fact so Professor Girish Kumar is a professor from IIT Bombay. He belongs to this antenna domain, and he in fact delivered a complete talk over this cell phone and tower radiation hazards and solutions. So he then shows there are many researches which shows there might be mental effects. In fact there are harmful effects over on human body, on in fact on the nature also. So they gave some proof also. It was a full entertaining session, right? So my only thing before going into the technical session, that okay, please keep these things in mind, that yeah, you need to use these technologies whatever we discuss as a master, not as a slave. So find some solution, if it is a how you can handle those things. Otherwise every problem has a solution by this way or that way, right? So this figure summarizes my point very well. So you find some way, otherwise there is something called in Hindi Sam Dam Dand Bhed, right? By using that, you can always solve that problem. Okay. Well, so now we now come back to the our technical session, which is actually relevant to this FTP. What we are going to see here is, if you see now, uh, I'm using some word army. Army means a group of lot of people, right? Here if you see, I'm saying army of things. Why? Because you see, if your daily life in your daily life, it is almost surrounded by uh, uh, many things, or we can say IoT, small things. It may be a mobile, it may be a Wi-Fi router, it may be your laptop, it may be your smart TV, right? All those things. But those things are actually not only things, but those are intelligent things. So the point is, though the word intelligent whenever comes, we had some kind of impression that we are going to discuss about AIML. So it's not about AIML, but my only point is, these things are intelligent. So that means we can actually use them efficiently if we want. Now that is the whole purpose of this talk. That how by properly incorporating different advanced technologies, how we can exploit these things in a better fashion. So if we talk about a typical in a typical wireless network, how we can improve the throughput, or how we can improve the data rate, how we can reduce the VER and all those things, so that our daily life experience becomes better, right? So these things are equally applicable to your household things also. But anyway, for the sake of discussion, we will discuss using typical wireless nodes. Okay. So that's how actually that multi-user thing is this, what I was saying. So we are surrounded by many things. So actually, we are in real life also, we are surrounded by multi-user wireless networks, right? Okay. Now, See, whatever we discuss should not be in research only, or should not be on paper only, right? Or should not be only in the books or on copy. Uh, my effort is that you should be able to relate whatever we discuss or we are going to discuss with the real life. So I give you one example, uh, which shows the kind of scenario that we are actually going to discuss. Here, if you see, this is, I think, some kind of post-disaster scenario. Uh, so we are aware, during disaster, rather post-disaster, our mostly our communication infrastructure actually goes down, right? So if your base station or the main central controller goes down, in that case, these infrastructure communication systems goes down, right? You can't make a call, right? So in that case, if we are talking about rescue operations, it becomes very difficult. I can't make a call to 100 and or maybe to some rescue team ki, see, here I am, or I can't share my location also, right? In that case, how this communication infrastructures can be rebuilt, can be temporarily made. So here is the solution. uh, so you see, these are, let's say there is some one user is here, and these are the members of rescue team. Other some people are stuck at some floors here and there. So how to set up a communication? There is a recent idea of, I mean, recent means not very recent, but yeah, this, using drones, we can actually uh, you know uh, make some temporary base stations, right? So what this base station, this drone will do, this base station, this drone will actually act as a base station. So now it's like, if you are stuck here, what you can do, you can actually communicate to this drone as a base station. So either this drone will directly communicate to the rescue team, or through multi-hopping it can communicate to the rescue team, right? So you can send some emergency message, or you can share your location, or those kind of necessary stuffs which are required in post disaster scenario, right? So this is what actually we are going to discuss. That so this drone idea also we will discuss at the end of the talk. How is it important? But from the modeling perspective, we will start with a simple relay, right? So this is one of the scenario that I had in my mind. This is another scenario where you see it is also multi-user setting, right? uh, it's not the reality now, but the way we are approaching towards 6G, or for that matter beyond 5G, I think this is going to be a reality very soon, that your washing machine, your watch, your AC, your car, your cupboard, right? Or maybe there is some machine in the neck of your cat, or your tab, your home, everything is connected through cloud, right? So it is actually a multi-user setting here. Not only a one thing, but a lot of things are connected with that. So we are trying to see if, by applying the advanced technologies, can we get best out of these multi-user scenarios, right? So this is another scenario what I had in my mind. So okay, what we are going to discuss then, okay, a hybrid network we will see. Current wireless scenario also will see what is. So the way I will discuss these things is, before going into the technology of the focus for the today's talk, I will show you one animation. What if we do not utilize that? So that you can easily compare that what is the advantage of using this technology, right? So we will see the current scenario also, and then we will go for the, in the same animation, we'll see what if we utilize some of the advanced wireless techniques. So this idea of cooperation, idea of network coding, or idea of full duplex communication, these all are actually very integral part of 5G communication, right? Or for that matter for the 6G also. So this coded cooperation we will first discuss, and then if time permits, then we'll see the full duplex one, otherwise we'll skip that. Okay. So now these are some of the just curve to to make the preface of the talk, right? I mean, it shows the kind of penetration of IoT devices, particularly for the mobile. You can see it is increasing like anything. And I think I couldn't get the data for 221. Otherwise, if we include the data for 21, I think it will be going somewhere here because of the COVID. the use of this mobile and work from home and all these things are increasing a lot. So actually, maybe subscribers are increasing on a higher pace. These are again, the uses of, as I said, personal computers, smartphone, tablet, connected TVs, wearables. So these all are we use in a daily life. So every settings are mostly uh, multi-user setting nowadays, right? Okay. Now we come to the uh, network part, that the kind of technology that we are going to use. What is the use of that in a bigger network? If you see, this figure shows a cooperative wireless community network, where you see there are a lot of substations. There is a main base station also. There are multiple users connected with the base station. So now they are eventually routing their data to the base station, either through direct hop, multi hop, or in some way, right? The two points where we are actually interested is this. See, now this scenario is a typical relaying scenario. Why? Because this user is actually out of the reach to this nearest base station. So what it does is it routes the data through this relay. First it will send to this, then this will route to this, and this will route to this. So this is kind of multi-hop scenario. This is a typical scenario. What we are going to do is this. This is what we are going to discuss. Now, what is happening here? Here, it's not that this user is out of the reach to this base station. It is in reach. You see there is a direct link. But at the same time, for better reliability, what it is doing, it is actually taking help of a nearby user who can overhear the data, and he will. So this is a very typical scenario of cooperative communication, which I think most of us are aware. By this user can use either amplify forward or decode forward or hybrid or re-encode and those kind of methods you can use. So this is just one snapshot of the scenario where actually uh, the technology that we are going to discuss can be applied in a bigger network, right? Otherwise, if you see, this is a direct hop communication. It is just one hop communication, right? This is a one hop communication. This is a relay communication, right? These are all direct, but this is a kind of cooperative communication, and this is kind of relay communication. We will focus actually on this part, right? This. Okay. So what is so first let's just have quick look on the cooperation. It is, we will discuss among network nodes, and it is different from traditional relaying, as I said. Why? Because in traditional relaying, it is just a kind of range extension. You are not in the direct reach of the base station or the substation, so you try to take help of some intermediate node to relay your data. But in cooperation, it's not like I am out of reach, but just to increase the reliability, I am taking help of a nearby node, right? To achieve better diversity. So as I said, in the at the receiver side, you may be having two copies of the data, so you can apply any kind of then combining scheme, let's say SC, EGC, or MRC, or whatever. Right? Other thing, very important thing, is this technology also known as virtual MIMO. Now, what is virtual MIMO? MIMO, I think most of us are aware, right? Because it is again a very potential technology for the 5G also. It's a multiple input, multiple output. But once we are talking about low power devices, so for example, our battery, right? Or some sensor nodes, right? Or the mobile or the laptop, these are considered to be a bit low at lower side. Then what if we wanted to, to gain or to set the example or to gain the advantages of MIMO? Then so the idea of virtual MIMO here is this, that as I said, these were the three nodes. Just let me go once. So this is direct copy, this is your relayed copy. Now if you see at the destination, you are actually getting two copies of the same signal, right? But at the same time, the single transmitter didn't had two antennas, but the network setting is such that the receiver actually gets the feeling that the transmitter had two antennas, and so that's how he's getting two copies. So actually it is kind of virtual setting, right? That's how actually this technology is also called virtual MIMO, which is very beneficial for low power devices, right?
Yeah, Dr. Samdarshi, there is one question. Shall we take the question now, or
as you wish?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I it can be taken in between also, no issue.
Yes, so there is one question from Smith Sudhakaran.
Yeah.
So the question is spectrum sensing to be carried out?
No, sir, somehow the voice is breaking. What if spectrum sensing?
The question is spectrum sensing to be carried out? So he's asking whether we should carry out spectrum sensing. So
Okay. Okay. Let me say something and let's see if it is aligned to the question. So I think what is spectrum sensing are you talking? Because I'm not very much clear with the question. Is candidate asking about spectrum sensing at the transmitter side that before transmitting the data, actually we will sense the spectrum and then accordingly we will allocate the channel or something. Is it what she's asking?
not clear to me as well. Maybe we can
Yes, sir,
proceed
same
and
thing I am
then.
asking, sir.
He is here only. Yes, please,
Okay, yeah, please.
Yes, sir,
Please
I am
ask.
asking the same
clearly
thing.
ask the
As you
question,
said
please.
that you can hop it to some other frequencies, but before that we have to sense whether that is free or not.
Okay. So, okay, what's your good name?
Smith Sudhakaran.
Yeah,
Smith Sudhakaran.
Smith, Mr. Smith. So there are two things. One thing is, as of now, in this session or in this slide, as such, I'm not focusing particularly on the first part. First part is the network setup. What you are discussing, because see, I started from the point that node will transmit the data. I didn't discuss whether he will, he's having some kind of TDMA scheduling or he's some kind of CSMA scheduling, how he will, be allowed to transmit. That part we are not discussing as of now, that whether there is some infrastructure master node who is actually giving slots to various network nodes, or independently it's some kind of ad hoc network where node on its own by sensing the channel can decide, right? So as far as what you are saying, on a different frequency also, so there are, there is FDMA, TDMA, CDMA, there are many channel access techniques. So I am here assuming that, let's say it's some kind of TDMA where if there are multiple nodes, already some time scheduling they had, but it doesn't alter the main theme of the work. It can be equally applied to the CSMA also. There is no harm. And if you are saying on a different frequency also we can send, yeah, very well. So in that case, what this source need to do is he will just scan the available channels, and whichever channel has the lowest SNR or rather SINR, he will choose that, because lowest SINR shows the minimum amount of interference available on that channel. That means that is best to transmit. So he can utilize that frequency channel also. So that idea is equally applicable to either deterministic channel access techniques or to contention based channel access techniques. That will not change this part of discussion actually, right? So in any way he can transmit.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So before going into the cooperation part, first I would like to show you what happens in the traditional communication so that you can easily relate with the existing knowledge and what we are going to discuss. So here what I'm showing is I show you two mobiles. Okay, I understand mobiles are of old model. Maybe the new models are quite expensive, so I took one older model, but yeah, it works well. So don't worry. For our communication purpose, it is good. This I am showing as S, which is source, and D, that is for the destination. And there are three modes in which a communication can happen. It is a simplex or half duplex or full duplex. Maybe people from a bit computer background maybe can relate these things, because there is something in computer networks we often see there are three kind of modes in which communication can happen. We will consider the half duplex mode. So that's how I have written here the HD mode. So what happens in HD mode, if they want to transmit the data, it will simply source will transmit the data. Again, now at this point, as what Smith was asking, I started from the point that source will transmit the data. If we are interested in the path or in the step 0 also, then we will say that, so if it is a contention based kind of thing, so first the source will scan the available channels in that region, and on whatever channel he finds the minimum SINR, he will just simply transmit the data, right? So now I'm adding now from the 2 node, I'm coming to the 3 node, that is the cooperation among node. So obviously for the cooperation, at least one extra node is needed. So that's how we have introduced this relay here, right? Now, this is again in the HD mode only. And in the first time slot, what will happen? Here we are actually dividing the complete communication process into two steps. In first time slot, what will happen? The source will transmit. And because it's a omnidirectional communication, that is, this source has, some this kind of range over which people can hear. I mean, my screen is a bit small, so that's how it is not a perfect circle. Otherwise, it's ideally a circle. So this relay will also hear, and this destination will also hear. Let me remove these markings. And then in the second time slot, this relay will simply forward the data, right? So this is a typical example of cooperative communication or the cooperation among nodes. This was a basic model of cooperation, because once we will switch to the multi-user setting, you should be clear what was the original idea of cooperation. So that is a very basic model and available in literature very easily, right? Okay. Just a small variation of this, if the same communication we try to execute in the full duplex mode, then you can say it will happen in 1 plus del shot, not 2 time slots. Why? Because now this relay has the capability of receiving and transmitting at the same time. This is what the typical definition of full duplex, right? So actually, otherwise what was happening in the half duplex, first it will receive, and in the next time slot it will transmit. But in full duplex, while it is receiving in a continuous communication setup, it can immediately transmit. So not that processing delay you can reduce. So that's how not 2 but just 1 plus del part is needed. This is a full duplex part, though not the primary focus of this talk, but just for the sake of completeness, I'm telling the relay can be full duplex relay also, so that can increase the throughput and other system performances. Okay. And rather can actually utilize the spectrum efficiently. Right. Now, this is just to show you what we have discussed, where it can be used. So see, this shows that there is a source, and actually it can it try to upload the data over cloud, right? So what it does is, but actually the destination or the master node, it is a bit far. It doesn't it is not in having the direct reach to the destination. So what does it do? It actually relays the data. But you see, you can see this is as one relay and this is as one relay, or the cluster of relay. Now this is a direct transmission. It's a typical example of relaying, while this is actually example of that cooperative relaying or the cooperative transmission what we just discussed. So now you can see where this idea of cooperative communication can be applied, right? So the relaying can happen in a cooperative fashion also, in a multi-chain multi-hop scenario also, right? So this is one way to upload the data over cloud. Otherwise, people have different ways to upload the data over cloud. This slide shows one of the way to upload the data over cloud, but I will say please don't go for this method. Okay. Now we introduce one more, or we add one more technology in our group of technologies. We have discussed cooperative communication. Now we are adding one more technology, network coding. So let's see if the merging of these two technology can give us some better results. Let's see. Now what I'm doing is, first I'll show you in a very simple animation what was network coding, which is a very typical example that is very familiar. Then we will merge the network coding with the cooperative communication, and we'll see then how the coded cooperation will look like. So now let's see. Before discussing the network coding, what we do, first we see what if there is no network coding, right? So first we see the typical scenario, so that you can at least compare the two scenarios. One is with network coding and other is without network coding, and you can appreciate, okay, yeah, network coding actually improves the scenario. So what we want to do, let's say this S1 mobile. Yeah, so now I have a updated model of mobile, right? And yeah, so I have 3 now new models. Okay, so this S1 has some data, and similarly this S2 has some audio file which they wanted to exchange, right? And since they are not in the reach, or rather in the direct reach of each other, so what they do, they take help of this relay, this intermediate node. So if you do not utilize network coding, that means in a general normal scenario, how this communication will take place, let's have a look. What S1 will do, in the first time slot, it will send some data. So let me remove these markings so that you can see what is happening. Right. So now the relay has that X1 data. Relay will simply forward the data to S2 in the second time slot. Now the X1 data from S1 reached to S2. Fine. Now S2 has some data X2 which he want to send to S1. So he will simply send to R, and R will simply forward the data to the S1. This is a very simple scenario which anyone can realize, right? But now we see, so total 4 time slots are required to exchange these X1 and X2, right? Fine, good enough. Now we see we utilize the idea of network coding. Then is there any advantage? Let's see, let's have a look. This S1, what will do? S1 will transmit the data as before in the first time slot. Now in the second time slot, actually relay will not transmit, but S2 will transmit. So S2 will send the data to relay. Now if you see, the relay has 2 data, X1 and X2. That is one copies of both the data. What the relay will do, relay will combine these 2 data using some appropriate signal processing. Here we can assume it's a simple addition or the superposition, and then it has a combined packet of X1 plus X2. Now what the relay will do, the relay will simply transmit the data to, or it will just broadcast the data. So since we are assuming it is kind of, this is its communication range, both S1 will also listen, S2 will also listen. Please make sure, initially I said S1 may not be in reach of S2, or S2 may not be in the reach of S1, but this R is a kind of reach of S1 also and in S2 also, or S1 S2 both are in reach of relay, right? So in the third time slot, once it will broadcast the data, at the same time S1 will also hear and S2 will also hear, right? Now see, it is just a very simple signal processing. What will happen? Now S1 has 2 copies. One is X1, which is its own data, and X1 plus X2, which he received from the relay. Now I think anyone can realize how S1 can get X2 just by subtracting. So what he will do, X1 is its own data, and X1 plus X2 is the overheard data or the received data from relay. So he will just subtract and he will get the X2. The same processing we can do actually at the S2 also. We will subtract the X2 from the combined signal and we will get the X1. So once S1 will have X2, so you see it is having X1 and it is having X2. Similarly for S2, it is earlier having X2 and now it is having X1. So the data exchange is successful. But you see, the time slots required only 3. That means, yes, network coding actually increases the throughput, because if the time requirement reduces, obviously your throughput will go high, right? Will be increased. This is what is happening. But is this the complete scenario? Is there, is it always advantageous? Is there any cons, or everything is pros? So let's see. This is what actually the key part of today's talk, that things are not as they are looking, but there is something hidden, and that is very interesting. So we'll come to that. Okay. But as of now, this is okay, fine. That actually the use of network coding reduces the time slot required. Fine. Now we increase one more node. So we are slowly, increasing the family. I think somebody had a mic unmuted. I request please mute the mic.
Yes, I have muted him.
Yeah. Okay.
Now it's noise free. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I doubt, sir, if a communication system can really be noise free.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, let's go ahead. So we are slowly increasing our family from 2 node. We reached to 3 node, and now we have increased one more node, a 4th node, right? So now we have 2 source nodes and 1 destination node. And this is what we will discuss here is the coded cooperation. So that is, we have combined the idea of cooperation as well as network coding into the single network, and then we will see what is the advantage of this, right? Ideally, it should come with the combined advantage of cooperation, which is the reliability or the diversity, and the coded, which is nothing but the throughput, higher throughput, right? So let's see. But before going into the coded cooperation example, let's run the network without coding. That is, what if with these kind of nodes, if I apply only cooperation, and in that case, S1 also send data to D, S2 also want to send data to D through R, then how the scenario will look like, and then we will rerun the scenario using coding, that is the coded cooperation, and then we will compare the two scenarios, right? So let's see. First, we neglect the coding and we just go for the cooperation part. So what happens in time slot 1? Source 1 will transmit, right? So since it's omnidirectional transmission, it's a broadcast. D will also receive and R will also receive. Good. And then R will simply forward the data to D. So D having 2 copies of the data from S1, and it can easily apply the diversity. Fine, good enough. S2 will transmit in the similar fashion. R will also receive, D will also receive, and R will simply forward the data to the D. So D is again having 2 copies of S2, and he can apply the diversity. But see, 4 time slots are required, right? Now we will see if by the application of coding, that is by use of coded cooperation, can actually something better can be achieved. Okay, let's see. This scenario is actually a typical. This scenario is actually a typical example. I mean, there is a typical name for this scenario, which is called multiple access relay channel. So that's how I just wrote here. Now let's see. Rerun the network under coded cooperation scenario. Let's see what are the advantages. S1 will transmit as before, but in the second time slot, R will not transmit. R will wait for the transmission from the S2, right? And in the third time slot, what relay will do? Relay will combine the data which he received from S1 and S2, and he will simply transmit the combined data to D. Now, there is a specific signal processing which they have mentioned in the paper, that by utilizing those steps, actually delay this D or the destination can extract the second copy of S1 and S2, because one copy he has already received from S1 and S2 in the first and second time slot. The whole fight is to get the second copy to apply the diversity, right? So in paper they have presented some algorithm so that he can, right? But that is a signal processing part, need to be carried out at the destination. It doesn't involve any time slot or any use of spectrum or any transmission power, right, for that matter. So here if you see, the channel part is actually being completed in 3 time slots. So again the same observation, the application of, or the rather I should say combined application of coded cooperation actually reduces the requirement of time slot. Yeah, good. Okay. Now we go one step ahead. We increases our family with more nodes, right? Before that, so this what we are going to discuss is again a cooperative communication with network coding, but in a more broader scenario or in a practical scenario. Before that, I just show you one scenario where the discussion what we are about to have is applied or can be applied. This is a simple illustration of cooperative drones in an urban scenario. So drone you can utilize as relay, so that we will see at the end of the talk. But here as of now you can see there are multiple cars, right? And there may be users inside the building. Then there may be waypoint indicators or the UAVs. So it's a multi UAV scenario. Though what we will discuss is having one UAV only, but that multi-user scenario setting can be applied here. So for example, let's say these 3 users, they can take help of this access point, and it can further send the data to the drone, or this helicopter can send data to these vehicles. This may be a typical scenario of vehicular communication system, right, where each vehicle needs information from other vehicle for taking decisions about speed or turn or acceleration or braking and all those things, right? So this is a typical scenario where we can apply this thing. Okay. So now our family is increased by 1. Now we have 5 nodes, right? So this is a very typical scenario where S1 D1 is a pair, S2 D2 is a pair, right? But and these 2 pairs are assisted by relay. Okay. So this is what is coded cooperation among multiple users. Okay. Now we will see if again we apply the idea of coded cooperation, then is there any advantage or not, right? The ultimate aim what we want to achieve is D1 destination should have data from its desired source, that is S1, and D2 should have data from its desired source, S2. But the final information should be reliable enough. So that means we need some kind of diversity, right? That means we need two paths. So I think presence of relay justifies that need, right? Because relay is there, we can have two copies. But then let's see if the outcome or the performance can be improved using coded cooperation. So again, before going into the coded cooperation animation, first see what if we do not utilize coding at the relay. So it's a simple network where relay is there. We will just simply go for the cooperation among multiple users. Let's see how the system will run. In first time slot, as it's a simple, it's just a, addition of 3 node network. It's like that. Source 1 will simply transmit the data, so relay will hear, D1 will hear, and relay will forward the data to destination. So you see relay, this destination is having 2 copies. One is from the direct path and second is this, so he can easily apply any combining scheme and he can get the diversity, right? What about S2? S2 will also do the same. He will transmit to R and D2 will also listen. So the first copy at D2 is already received, and then relay will simply forward the data. So again, D2 is also having 2 copies and he can apply the diversity, right? So you see, again, 4 time slots are required, right? Okay. Now let's see if we incorporate this coding thing, that is the network coding. So the network actually becomes the coded cooperation. Then is there any advantage out of it or not? Okay. Here, one more.
Dr. Samdar said there are a few questions, it seems.
Okay, please, they can ask.
Yes, so the question is about perhaps complexity. So is coded cooperative communication will increase more calculations?
Okay, sir, the thing is, see, nothing comes free in this world, right? As I said, in the very starting, if you are gaining something, you have to pay something. But the point is how you can reduce that payment or how you can reduce that extra cost. Now, if you see, it is a very general consideration in wireless networks that transmission part, so power transmission actually takes a lot of power. So, for that you need power amplifiers and battery and all those, right? Second thing, when you transmit, you are actually utilizing the spectrum also. So for that transmission time, the spectrum is being used. While, as I show, earlier in previous examples, we were using 4 time slots. That means you need to 4 times you need to transmit, right? 4 times the spectrum will be used or will be occupied. No other person can utilize the spectrum or that particular channel in those 4 time slots. But as we have seen, if we can carry out the whole operation in the 3 time slots, now see the saving part. The one transmission is avoided now, so that transmission power is saved. One time slot is saved, that means that particular channel is free to use by other channels, right? It is not occupied. But the cost is definitely at the relay where you are actually performing the kind of network coding, some signal processing part will be increased, no doubt, right? You need to perform some additional summations, multiplications, some other signal processing operations, but that is something which is internal to the node. It is not affecting in terms of power, because whenever there is a transmission, it always adds to the interference to the network, right? We normally do not consider, because interference is a different domain altogether, but whenever there is a transmission happening there, it is actually creating interference to some other user, either very in a considerable amount or in a minimum amount, but it is creating. So see, by avoiding that one slot of transmission, you are utilizing that spectrum, you are saving transmission power, you are avoiding interference, but at the cost of increased signal power, signal processing, right? So that is the thing. So it's not it is not complex, but it's like complexity is being shifted or is being considered at some other place, which is not harming other things. So this is, I think, the one example which is coming in my mind, which can correlate this thing, that we are actually shifting different calculations at one place. It is something like, nowadays this idea of EV is coming, right? And what does that EV says? Rather than having individual these consumptions, the petrol consumptions, you have one bigger grid, right? That is at one place where consumption is happening, and then you have multiple charging points connected to that that main grid, so that you can charge from there. So it is not like individual consumptions, but that main electricity will come at that grid and then it can distribute. So it's not like that some maybe consumption or pollution or all those things are reducing by zero, but it's like, now that grid is actually facing all those calculations, all those circuitry, all those machines, all those power consumptions. Definitely, if you go to that grid side, definitely some pollution will be there, right? In some form, it may be in form of heat, in form of some other waste, or in some, but that is at one place. And mass production is always beneficial as compared to the individual productions. So it's like that. Nothing comes free. Nothing comes free. This is what, to the best of my knowledge.
Yes.
So, does it answer to the question what is being asked?
Yes, perhaps. So there is a follow-up question by the same participant. So gain is always one time slot. Gain is always one time slot.
Okay. So no, this actually depends on the network. This just for the because of the screen size constraint and other complexity, I'm restricting it to the 4 users. But actually, the idea is equally applicable to, let's say, 10 users when there are 10 transmitters and 10 receivers, right? There, if you see, now if we individually run the network with the cooperative technique, and if we apply this coded cooperation, then there is a certain maths that some these n minus 1 by 2 or some number is there, that these much time slots you can save. So since it is a function of n, that means the saving is actually proportional or is a function of number of nodes. When number of nodes will increase, your time slot saving will increase. In this, I agree, in this particular setup, what I am showing here, because number of nodes are limited to 2 or 3 or 4 only, that's how that gain is coming in terms of one time slot only as of now. But it is a function of network load, right?
Yes. Okay, thank you. So one participant has raised hand, Dr. Savita. So do you want to ask anything? Dr. Savita?
Hello.
Okay. Yes. Savita ji, bataiye.
No, sir, it is by mistakenly placed. I'm so sorry.
Okay, okay, no problem, no problem. Okay. So, Dr. Saundarshi, you can continue.
Yeah, sure. So what we were discussing is, okay, so now we were about to see what happens if we, combine the coded cooperation techniques in these kind of networks, then what happens. Here, there is one more interesting thing. We are utilizing something unusual. What is that unusual? If you see in my previous example, when source was transmitting, only relay was overhearing and destination was overhearing. While it's a broadcast, right? Any node can overhear, but normally we avoid. So if you see here, actually this destination can also overhear this data, but there is no advantage. What D1 will do with that overheard data? But here we are actually utilizing this idea of overhearing or the idea of broadcasting. There is some advantage of this broadcasting also that we normally do not utilize. But here, by utilizing the idea of broadcasting or the idea of overhearing, we will gain something. So it is like we are now utilizing something which was already present in the network, but normally we do not utilize. But now we will utilize, we will exploit that thing for some betterment. Now, what is that betterment? Let's see. So here we come to the coded cooperation part. Now let's see. Here we have 3 arrows rather than 2 arrows. These 2, familiar, that we have seen in the last example. But here I show one more arrow, but that is in a dotted line. Why? Actually, thick line, that is the solid line, shows the desired transmission, and this arrow shows undesired or overhearing. Overhearing in the sense, as such, in a traditional network, D2 is not bound to receive something from S1 because it is not the desired transmitter. But here what we are doing, we are changing our MAC protocol. We are allowing D2 to overhear S1 for something. Now, what is that something? We will soon come to. Okay, so let's see. In first time slot, S1 will transmit, so D1 will hear, R will hear, and D2 will overhear. Okay. Now similarly, S2 in second time slot, S2 will transmit, D2 will hear, R will hear, and D1 will over here. Again, you see this I am showing as a dotted line because for D1, S2 is an undesired transmitter, right? It is receiving a data from S2 to gain something. What is that something? We will see soon. Then, as usual, what we do in the network coding, R will combine the two data and transmit to the destination, right? This is what the just the transmission steps. For making it more clear, I go one step ahead. What I do, I take some number, that is some packet. Let's say, what does that mean? So that whatever we discussed just now, the one thing is, see, this we are achieving in the 3 time slot. As somebody pointed out, again, the advantage of one time slot only because of the lesser number of nodes. But yeah, we have seen that there is advantage of one time slot. But let's understand it in a better fashion. So what I do is, now I take help of some packet x1. That is, S1 wanted x1 is having x1 and S2 is having x2 data. So the aim is, S1 wanted to send this x1 to D1 and S2 want to send this x2 to D2. Now, since there are packets, you can easily visualize what is happening with the data packets. Then we will introduce something more. So in second time slot, now S2 will transmit to as usual to D1, R and D2. So you see, D1 is having 2 copies. One is for x1, other is for x2. D2 is also having 1 copy of x2, other copy of x1, and relay is also having x1 and x2. Now, as I said in the last slide and in the previous animation run, that R will simply combine the 2 data, x1 and x2, and he will just simply transmit, right? Now here, I think math is quite easy, because first we focus on, let's say, this D1. What is happening at D1? It is having x1, it is having x2. But since for D1, S1 is the desired source, that means he needs 2 copies of x1. Now, from where that second copy of x1 will come? From here. What it will do? D1 will subtract the data overheard in the second time slot from the combined packet which he received from the relay. So he will do x1 plus x2 minus x2. X2 will be cancelled out, and you see the x1 is having another copy. So D1 will thus get the 2 copies of x1. The same thing will happen at the D2 also. What it can do? It can, so for D2, the desired signal is x2. So he need another copy of x2. What it will do? It will perform the operation over this set. He will simply subtract x1 from x1 plus x2. So this will be cancelled and he will get 2 copies of x2, right? So within 3 time slots, we have achieved the 2 copies of x2. So time slot saving is there because of network coding, and 2 copies of x2 is there so that you can apply some kind of combining technique. So reliability is there because of cooperation, right? So we have seen that if we combine the 2 technologies, that is coding and cooperation, in these kind of multi-user setting, we have 2 advantages. One is for the reliability and other is for the throughput enhancement. Fine. But is it the real picture, or there is something hidden? Yeah, there is something which actually we are overlooking. That when you apply this thing into reality, in the real transmission, some undesired things will come. It's like Indian team sometimes is very strong on paper, but when actually it comes to the performing on ground, some undesired factors may come, right? Nobody has control over it. It is something like this. Let's see what is that hidden thing. That is very interesting. I think up to now things are clear, right? How this coded cooperation with 5 node is running and how we can extract the 2 copies and time slot saving and all, right? Now let's introduce something more interesting. What is that interesting? See, whenever you transmit the data, it's a wireless channel, right? As I said, it's a broadcast scenario. So that means there is some channel between this S1 and D1. There is some channel between S1 and R, and there is some channel between S1 and D2, correct? Now let's introduce, or let's consider that channel also. So let's see what will happen if I consider the effect of this channel also, right? Now, how I am actually representing this channel. So actually I am representing the channel as HS1D1. That is, H is a typical symbol to be used for the channel, and S1 D1 means between S1 and D1, right? So a channel between S1 and R will be represented by HS1R, and channel between S1 and D2 will be represented by HS1 D2. So normally, if you see, there is a very typical equation that received signal is Y HX plus N, right? So here, just to keep the focus on the main thing, we are just neglecting the noise, right? We assume it is there, but as of now for this study, we are neglecting the noise. So my received signal, I'm showing as a Y is equal to HX only, right? So this is what the signal which D1 will receive from S1 is actually represented by HX, that is H S1 D1 X1. Fine, good. Now let's see what will happen at S2. So now, since channel between S2 and D2 will be represented by H S2 D2, so I'm just showing the reception from S2 as H S2 D2 X2. The channel between S2 and R is H S2 R, so I'm showing as H S2 R X2. And channel from S2 to D1 is actually H S2 D1, so I'm just simply showing H S2 D1 X2. Right now, as before, what relay will do? Relay will simply combine the two data that is received from S1 and S2, as he will make a one combined copy and he will transmit. Okay. Now let's see what these destination nodes are having. So they are having individual copies of X1, which they receive in first and second time slot, and one combined copy of signal which they receive from the relay in the third time slot. I think the next operation is very clear, which I explained earlier. In order to get the second copy of X1, what this D1 will do, he will simply subtract this from the combined signal, right? So now let's see what happens if I simply combine. Now you see, you can easily see now X2 will not cancel out completely. Why? Because some residual part is coming here. See, HS2D1 minus HRD1 HS2R. The same thing will happen here also. If I perform this over this X1 and this, then some residual part is coming here, right? And actually this is the main bottleneck. This particular thing is called network coding noise. What is that network coding noise? Why? Because see, why this is coming essentially, because this X2 copy is coming through this path, right? This channel is responsible for that. While this combined copy is coming through this channel and this channel, correct? Now, in wireless network, when we model channels, we often take this assumption that channels are statistically independent, right? So by that logic, ideally or theoretically, this channel is independent to this channel, or this channel is independent to this channel or this channel. So these three channels are actually independent and may not be same. And that's how this residual factor is coming into picture. Now see, in one scenario, which will not discuss, but just a quick note on that. Let's say channels are correlated. These three channels, this one channel, two channel, and three channel. These three channels are correlated. Correlated means they behave in a similar fashion. Let's say in a very idealistic scenario, in a very hypothetical scenario, let's say correlation is 100%. What does that mean? That ideally H S2D1 is equal to H S2R is equal to HRD1, right? And if this happens, to a certain extent, this can be reduced, because now the cancellation will be a bit easy, right? This is, I mean, this is not as easy as I'm showing. There is a complete maths behind these operations, but in correlation scenario, this things can improve. So the idea is, as somebody was saying, is there any complexity or something, because everything is looking good? But no, even when we apply the coded cooperation idea to these kind of multi-user setting, we have an advantage of reliability, right? We have an advantage of throughput, but that is at the cost of this residual noise, which we are calling as ANC noise, right? Or if you apply some kind of digital network coding, or that is decode and forward method, then this is called DNC noise, right? So this was the one thing that I wanted to show, that each coin has two sides. So this is the negative side, or the something which, so people have some suggestions or some I should say solutions or proposals to reduce the effect of this ANC noise, but still a lot of work is going on how to reduce this the effect of this ANC noise. Okay. Now, okay, so I'm almost at the end of my talk. So this is what the model we have discussed from theoretical point of view, right? Now let's see what may be the possibilities or the further modifications possible in this network. What are those? See, as of now, I'm assuming that this mobile and is relay. These all are in the same plane. That is, you may assume as on a ground. It's like, one man is carrying this mobile, other man is carrying this mobile, other man. So, and this relay is also one of the mobile carrying by one person. Since all the persons are moving over ground, so more or less all these sources, destinations, and relay are on the same plane. But one advantage we can gain. I think it's still Kuntal sir. Can you mute this? There is somebody speaking, it seems.
Yes, I have muted him.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So now another direction where this work can be further carried out is if you change the plane of the relay. That is, as of now it is in the source plane or in the destination plane or in the ground plane. If you pick the relay up and keep at some height, then what are the advantages? See, some of the advantages I show you in one practical figure. Here it is. What this figure shows, see, now this is a practical example of what we discussed just now. See, these are the sources, right? These are the destinations. And now, instead of having relay at the ground, we just keep the relay at some height. Now the advantage is, see, what happens when you are at the ground, you two people are at the ground, you may not see each other directly. In between there may be some obstacles, right? So in terms of communication, if I say, your channel can be often modeled as NLOS or as a relay, right? Relay feeding or a relay distribution. But if I utilize the relay or the drone as a relay, because now see, drone has a capability of moving here and there. So it can come closer to the ground or it can go up to the ground. So once this relay is having at some height, you see, you can have a LOS component, because it is highly likely that if some node is at height 50 meter or 100 meter, you can directly see that, because these obstacles, these buildings or car, trees will not come in between. LOS component means increased performance, or the channel modeling as Richian feeding or the Richian distribution, which is always considered to be good. So these are some of the variation that you can do. Or there is another technique which is actually being considered for the 5G technology. It is called D2D, right? That is the device to device communication. Now the same idea can be extended to device communication also. It's like, see, this is one device and this is another device. And if they wanted to communicate, it is actually device to device communication in an autonomous mode. Now there are two modes of D2D communication. The one is autonomous mode, other is infrastructure mode. So as I said, you can see I have a cross over this base station. That is because of some reason, maybe because of post disaster scenario, or maybe some reason. Okay, so see, my ambulance is already there. That means something happened. So we can consider some due to some problem, actually the base station is not working. In that case, actually this D2D is very beneficial, especially in autonomous mode. So that D2D again can be run over this cooperative mode. So it is like cooperative D2D, right? So these are some of the extensions which you can think of when looking for these kind of coded cooperation scenario. This is a particular scenario of drone assisted coded cooperation, because nowadays drone is very useful technology in the 5G also, for scenario for coverage purpose, or for delivery, or for many other things, right? So that's how this one extension of this work to the drone side is also possible. So interested candidates can see that. Okay, so I think it's yeah, so it's almost 1 hour and 40 minutes. So I would like to finish here then. Okay, these are the references, and thank you. So this is done from my side. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, Dr. Samdar, thanks a lot for the interesting talk. So the participants, if you have any questions, so you can type your question in the chat box, or you can unmute and ask questions. Is there any further questions from the participants? Yes, Bijaya Selvan, you have unmuted. So is there any question from your side? So I assume that there is no.
There is a very famous saying that, sir, if there is no query, either the talk was wonderful or nobody get nothing.
No, the talk was interesting, definitely. I mean, in between we had many questions and interactions.
No, that was just on a lighter note. Yeah, I understand. So people had some query. I mean, it's very rare. Otherwise, normally people just keep on listening. But yeah, people had a different query related to their area, either related to spectrum sensing or complexity. So that's one. So aim was this talk to, just to give some kind of micro knowledge.
I guess there is one question. Ramesh Chandra Misra. So is there any question from your side, sir?
Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. How are you?
Sir, fine, sir. Actually, we have enjoyed your presentation. It is nice. Definitely, we have learned something new regarding this cooperative communication. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
See one query from
one question is there from Susmita. How can you solve the synchronization issue in D2D communication?
Okay. So
how
there
to
are
solve
two
the
things.
synchronization issue in the D2D communication?
Okay. So if you have some idea or some background about D2D, actually the D2D can, as I said, there are two modes in which D2D can run. The one is autonomous mode and other is infrastructure mode. In infrastructure mode, it's relatively easier because the controlling part is actually taken care by the base station. So what will happen? Let's say whenever two mobile want to communicate directly to each other, but since they are unaware about the presence of other, right? But I just wanted to transmit something to you or to some user, but I don't know whether he is at 10 meter or at 100 meter or maybe within 1 kilometer or 500 meter or something, or maybe in the next home or in the next cabin. So this part, this device discovery part will actually be taken care by the base station. So at the same time, the synchronization points, synchronization issues will also be taken care by the base station. He will send some synchronizing signals to both the devices so they can, synchronize. Once the device discovery is completed by the base station, now the devices can communicate with each other. Now, before starting that communication, they also, exchange some kind of synchronization message, which is a very typical to any MAC protocol. So they can take care. Now, if we come to the autonomous part, where actually there is no role of base station. Now, since there is no base station, everything need to be done by the devices only. So in that case, what devices do? They, whenever, so let's say I'm the device 1 and the person, some other person is the device 2, and I wanted to transmit something. So what I'll do, it's some kind of ping message. I'll send some kind of, or you can say, or not exactly, but a very similar thing. What is some kind of RTS message, right? That, see, I wanted to send something to this destination. If he is in my range, please respond. It is something like this, roughly something like this. So if that device is really in my range and if he receives this message, because whenever other nodes will receive, they will discard. Why? Because the destination ID is not matching. I particularly mentioned that because every network node has, some network node ID. So I say I wanted to send to network node ID number 52. Obviously, when 51 will hear, he will just discard simply because this is not destined to me. So whenever 52 will receive, he will respond to that packet. And once I get my reply to the RTS, then we will again exchange some kind of synchronization messages. So in fact, synchronization is must for any communication to start, right? So in that way, in D2D also, so this synchronization problem is not very different from a typical communication, but it is as good as, the same kind of synchronization messages we use in D2D also, right?
Yeah, thank you. There is one more question from Hutes Bhaviskar. So how does infrastructure mode work for mobile communication?
Where is this? Okay. Yeah. Hutesh, right. How infrastructure mode work for mobile communication? Wait, I'm a bit confused with the question. Is this the same infrastructure mode what I just discussed for D2D, or you have a question altogether for the mobile communication? I'm not very much clear with this.
Yes, Hutes, if you are online, you can ask directly, unmuting yourself. For mobile communication, in general, it seems.
Okay, I mean, if it is then actually there is nothing to say, because mobile communication, everyone is aware it is a well-established thing. Infrastructure mode, I hope if your question is very specific to mobile communication only, then it is a simple, a base station is there, and let's say I'm the mobile user, then actually everything works under that infrastructure base station, because whenever I wanted to set up a communication, I will ping my base station. That base station will see whether it is in its own reach or it will communicate to some other base station. If it is there, then he will assign some uplink and downlink to both of us, and then the communication will start. So that's a very typical to the mobile communication. I think there is not much research is remaining in the mobile communication part. That is very typical thing in infrastructure mode.
Yes, thank you. One more request from Vijay Selvan. I think the request is that to share some base papers related to your talk. Any specific analytical method for this, you can share.
Okay. Sir, what I'll do, I'll share those reference paper to you. You can then please send to whoever.
Yeah, I'll share with all the participants.
I'll share with you.
Sure. Is there any further questions from the participants? Yes, I'll share your, all the sessions recorded video, I'll share it to everyone. Attendance will be automatically generated from the Teams. Thank you. So I assume that there are no any further questions from the participants. So let us thank Dr. Samdarshi for the interesting session. So with this, you are coming to the end of this first day of the FDP. So tomorrow we'll start at 10 o'clock. And by morning, I will share the entire details of the tomorrow's schedule. So tomorrow we'll be starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. So see you at 10 o'clock. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, sir. Thank you.